It's match day. We're with MLJ. That works. I'll tell you that. That works. The intro worked. Michael Levy Jr. is alongside me. We're going to be talking about today's game, which is obviously Arsenal versus West Ham. Before I do that, we have not had a chat since we changed manager, mate. How's that been? What? Give me your views and your thoughts over the last, whatever it might have been, 7 days, something like that. I don't know.
It's a really strange thing because it was really out of the blue, but it was also on the cards, wasn't it? We sort of knew that he was going to be next in line. I think the timing of getting rid of Potter was a strange one. And so you'd imagine from the things you read and the things you hear, it's maybe because Nuno's tied up his financial loose ends at Forest. But yeah, a little bit strange to leave Potter taking training for the week and then having him do the press conference and then the sort of embarrassment of asking him about the face swap questions. And that'll be the last thing that he was asked in a press conference as West Ham manager. And then they've binned him and they've brought Nuno in. Yeah, I think you know my feelings. I think we always have to caveat our opinions on YouTube. Of course, I'm behind the manager. Of course, I want him to win every single game that we play. Of course, I'll be cheering him on and hoping for the best. I do think we're going to get an immediate uplift, which we sort of saw at the Everton game. I do think there are quick fixes for him, which we've already explored with the omission of James Ward-Prowse, playing a centre forward, which is one of the things you brought up on your Football Focus interview. And yeah, just sorting out this set piece situation and how we are from corners. I think there's going to be an instant reaction, attacking and defending set pieces. And I do think he'll steady the ship, but I will not change and be hypocritical on what I said before. I still think that Nuno's style of football has a shelf life, and I'm not complaining about the style of football because results and being resolute is what we need. But from all the things I've seen at Wolves and at Forest, and speaking to Forest fans and listening to the Forest fan on Gio's channel, I do think there's going to come a time where teams figure out the counter-attacking style, the mid-block, and they give us the ball and say, come at us. And that's when I think the wheels are going to come off. And then I kind of feel like next year we'll be looking to get another manager in because it is still just changing the wheels on a broken car. But I'm optimistic for now. And what we need is results and stability now. And I think he's going to bring that. So I think that's a good thing.
Do you like him?
I've been a bit catfished by him, you style, like you were with Lopetegui, because we was aware of him from his time at Spurs. I really dislike Spurs, so I always think when a manager that's come in from them, I always think they've still got that Spurs stink on them. So I was a bit on the back foot with him at first. He didn't do so well there, and then obviously going out to Saudi Arabia is normally where you send managers out to die. So I was a little bit dubious of that, but he did have a great season last season with Forest, and I've begun to like his approach. You know, he's definitely a leader, and that's what we've missed. So he's come in, he said the right things, but listen, don't they always? That's what Potter did. Can't help the cynic in me feels a little bit like when Lopetegui came in, he said he was tasked with playing attacking football the way the fans like it. It's what he said to appease the fans, and then we know how that ended up. Potter came in and said, the youth academy and the traditions of this club are so important. We need to bring youth players through. He played Skulls for a little while, like a token gesture. And then after the Liverpool game, he was never really seen again. And now this time I'm a little bit dubious when Nuno's coming in saying, you know, the sort of things he's saying about, you know, it's important to respect the traditions of the club and use the youth and get a bond with a fan. So it all sounds good, but actions speak louder than words. So let's hope that he'd make good on those things.
To be fair to him, I don't think he's made as lofty a promises as the other two have made.
No, he's got on with it more.
He has. He wants to get stuck in. He's talking about working hard. His stuff seems a lot more achievable, which I don't mind at all. I do agree with what you say about the shelf life for him. But I do believe we're in such a state at the moment. I think he's got a lot of leeway. I think there's probably a lot of leeway for that at the moment. I think it's like the whole tongue-in-cheek West Ham, a massive. We don't think that. We're very aware of what we are, and I think we know that we're struggling. And I think with that in mind, I don't think there's too many people going to be banging a drum and saying we're entitled to beautiful football now. I just don't see it. I don't really hear people saying it that much. So I think you'll be all right. I think there's so much focus on the board now, which by the way has died down a little bit, only because of that draw, because he's come in and because it's deflected attention, which it already has. But I don't think it's gone away. It's still there. And I think people would no way, if anything doesn't particularly work out for Nuno, will be particularly looking at Nuno. I think they'll still be looking at the board, and that's going to, I think, run for some time and only get more, actually. So we got Arsenal. What do you think he'll do with the team?
I think it'll be largely unchanged. I think there's maybe an argument for bringing Aaron Wan-Bissaka in, and which would be a little bit harsh on Walker Peters, but I feel like he's a little bit more, little bit better at progressing the ball up the pitch. And I think, you know, if we're going to play this counter-attacking style, it's interesting the way Nuno sets up, because people keep saying it's a low block. For me, it's not. It's kind of a mid-block where he lets the opposition have the ball. And I've heard a lot that he doesn't press. I disagree with that as well. I think he does, but just in pockets. I think he squeezes areas of the pitch to open up areas to attack, mainly on the flanks. So I think that's going to be important. Not sure he would have had a bit more time to judge the goalkeeping situation. So, you know, I can't help but think at some point Mads Hermansen's going to come back in just because of the money we spent on him. So he's had, you know, a week or so on the training ground now with him. But yeah, you know, it's again, the midfield's another thing. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Freddie Potts coming in, because obviously Magassa started off quite bad against Everton, and by the end of it looked quite good. But again, he's another young player that's going to take a little bit of time to adapt to the pace and the power of the Premier League. So he's got some decisions to make there. But if I had to put my hat on it, I would maybe say one possible change would be Wan-Bissaka at right back. I think maybe everything else will remain the same. But I've got a little question mark over the midfield. I definitely think we need to be seeing more legs in the midfield. And I definitely think we need to keep a tight unit. And we need to, when we get the opportunity to turn the ball over and counter-attack, there needs to be the directness of Bowen and the acceleration of Somerville. I just worry about our centre-forward position. I don't really think we've got that focal point. And like we've spoke about before, I'm not sure Füllkrug is as strong this season. I keep seeing him dusted off the ball. And I think Nuno is the type of coach that wants, like the lad you mentioned in your video the other day, was it the 6'5" fella?
Pellegrino, yes.
Yeah, Pellegrino. So, you know, he likes that kind of player. He likes the Chris Wood kind of player that good with his head, can bring players in. And that's kind of what we thought we were getting with Füllkrug. But I'm not sure if if he's delivering on that this season. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I did notice I actually thought he wasn't bad in the air against Everton. I thought, I think there's a very clear instruction for him to flick on header it, and it almost yielded a goal. Now, ironically, he'd sort of missed that flick on header, and Somerville got it and almost scored. But there were a number of flick on headers. I think there were 3 others where he flicked it through, and either Somerville or Bowen were running through. And I do think, so I think he got a bit better. I just think there's no point in doing that against Arsenal, because they're sort of the best, really. The centre backs there, particularly as a unit, they do seem to be the best. But it definitely seems to be a tactic, and I think if he's going to do that, then he will target someone. And just I looked. Funnily enough, I've just been preparing all my video for my amateur scout over on Patreon, which will go up actually before this video is released. And I mean, he is absolutely dominant, Pellegrino, in the air. Absolutely dominant. So it's not just you've got a big bloke. He sprung to mind when I was watching it. Absolutely dominant. So I never thought we used to get the best out of Carroll in that respect. I'd often see him almost doing flick on headers to nobody, you know, and there was nobody there. So, but hey, that's West Ham. How often do we get a striker and not utilise his abilities, you know? I do wonder if we thought we were getting that with Scamacca. Now, Scamacca was 6'4" or whatever he was, but he wasn't that. That's not what he was. He was not a... was not really a target man. No, he wasn't.
I worry. I worry about Fulkrug up against Gabriel and Saliba, though, and it's strange because people will question this statement I'm about to make for footballing reasons, but I think Souček is going to be a big miss. And I think particularly for defending set pieces, defending the corners, because he is about the only one, maybe a little bit with Mavropanos, that can actually get his head on the ball. So I feel like Souček's a miss for this one, even as an option off the bench. You know, whether we could nick a goal and we need him to shore it up from attack corners against us, or maybe, you know, for our own set pieces. I do feel like he's a miss for us, because I do think in terms of aerially, it's a mismatch.
I agree. I agree. I mean, it's another reason. I mean, I think almost you've got to write off. I don't mean write off the result, but in terms of when you're building your team, you've almost got to write off the Arsenal because they are so good. I think it's another reason for playing Magasso, because Magasso was a central defender apparently before he moved into midfield at Monaco last season, and he's not a giant, but I think he's 6'1", 6'2", so he's another one in there. I do wonder at West Ham. I think it's another reason to perhaps bring Wan-Bissaka in. Again, not a giant, but he will contest the ball. You'd hope so. I'm not going to judge him on how he's played clearing headers under Lopetegui or Potter. I don't think it would be fair, but I do think, again, I think Nuno would love him, and I've certainly not forgotten how bloody good that player is.
Hammer of the
He's
year,
incredible.
wasn't he?
Exactly.
I mean, he
He
does
is
switch off
incredible.
at the back post. He does switch off at the back post. Is the only concern about that, I
Yes,
think.
but we've not seen him under a manager who really drills his defenders well. We've not seen that. So I suspect, or I like to think, that would go away. And I think that's the thing that I mention and remember with Wan-Bissaka, is Wan-Bissaka has the capacity to consistently be a man of the match for West Ham. He's proven it. I really like, and I'm pleased Walker Peters came in. Really pleased he came in, but I don't think he's that. I don't think Walker Peters can consistently be man of the match in a lot of West Ham games. So, and for that reason, I think you'd like him. What's your hunch ahead of the game?
It's a head and heart thing, isn't it? You know, my heart wants us to be really tight defensively and resolute, and then nick a goal and get a sneaky 1-0 win. And Rice has a nightmare against us, as he does. And, you know, we've beat them for 2 seasons now, but head says I think it will be a valiant effort, maybe a 2 or 3-1 loss, but there will be signs of improvement. It is what the logical part of my brain thinks.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you do anything in the centre forward department? Would you do anything different? I think he'll start with Fulkrug as well.
I just think we're really weak there. I don't think this is the game for Callum Wilson. I think you maybe on the balance of odds, you've got to stay with Fulkrug. It really does intrigue me, the possibility of having Callum Marshall up there just for his energy. But then again, he's really busy and presses really well, but that's not really Nuno's style, pressing from the front. So I don't know. I just kind of think it would overwhelm Marshall a little bit. So I think we've got no choice but to stay with Fulkrug. But you know, if had we had another option other than what we got, that other option would have gone straight in, I think, which sounds a strange thing to say, but I just think we've got to stick with what we've got at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. The Todibo situation is a weird one. So his first training session, Potter, I think, was on the Friday. He had a second training session on the Saturday, and the photographers were there. Todibo was in that training session. There was actually one picture of Potter and Todibo. And then you hear that neither Todibo or Ward-Prowse have travelled with the squad. Then it turns out you get to the game, you think neither are on the bench. Clearly they haven't travelled with the squad. Nuno's then asked, what was your thinking behind leaving Todibo and Ward-Prowse at home? And he said, I had 3 days to pick the squad. I had 3 days to do it. I had to do what was best. I've tried to be honest and direct. I think they both, I think they understand, or I hope they understand. Right? So we've seen him training. Given the opportunity to explain that Todibo was injured, he's not said that at all. He's basically said, I hope he took the news all right. He then is pictured, Todibo, the training session that was Wednesday's training session. Todibo's pictured in that as well. And then it's then now that some news comes out that he might have been injured. I don't know. And then Nuno was pressed on it in his press conference. He said, "Oh yeah, no, he missed the session." Well, what do you think's going on with Todibo? 3 managers now. I'm quite possibly, or maybe am I reading too much into the the new one? I just thought I thought it was weird if he was injured, just say it. I've got no problem with Nuno, by the way, at all. I actually think Nuno was being honest. I think maybe he's trying to cover it up retrospectively, but when the cameras take a picture of Todibo in training sessions before the Everton game, after the Everton game, and then Nuno's said, "Oh, I had to give him some tough news by leaving him out." What are you meant to believe?
The old injury thing is a bit of an old chestnut. We brushed over it with the AWB thing, and apparently he's had a sickness bug that might be malaria, might be a fallout, might be something. So that'll be telling today with whether he's he's selected or he's on the bench. And the same with Todibo. I think as a one-off game when he's had a training session and a half against Everton, to omit Todibo from the squad could be because other than Souček's suspension and George Murphy, I think he's got the luxury of having almost everybody else available. So there's only so many people that you can bring and put on the bench. Today will tell whether Todibo is what we think. But what we think, I can assume, is that he's a bad apple. He's fell out with 2 or 3 managers now. He doesn't seem to have a great attitude. There's rumours that he's turned up late for training. We still haven't really seen him finish 90 minutes strongly. He's still got this history with this childhood injury and one bloody leg longer than the other, running around in circles. I just think we've been done with him. Like financially, I think we've absolutely been done up with that price tag and this whole, we should have gone to Man United, should have gone to Juventus. We've been played like a fiddle there. So, yeah, for me, if Nuno's seeing, and I'm only, this is conjecture on my part, if Nuno's seeing what Potter saw and what Lopetegui saw, then get him out of the environment.
Yeah, that's it. Would you go and buy a centre back in January?
Absolutely. I know it's hard in January to do business. Absolutely, a centre forward with pace and a centre back that's old school, dominant, gets his head on things, and I think that's paramount. I mean, that could be the difference between us staying up or not. To be honest with you,
do you think we will?
I've got a reserved judgment.
I'll ask you in 2 weeks, shall I?
Yeah, but at the moment, I would say yes. Now we've had some sort of change, and the early indications are somebody's going to come in and lead the pack and organise and sort these problems out, and won't overlook these glaringly obvious problems like no legs in the midfield and terrible goalkeeping, and just put the ball in our 6-yard box and you've got a goal. I do feel more optimistic about it now with Nuno, even though I wouldn't have chosen him than I did as Potter. I think an interesting thing I would like to say though on the Nuno thing, although we're all looking optimistically and we are backing him, and he is the best of a bad lot. I would like to point out we are conditioned though to be given such terrible options that even all right looks good. Right? It's like you're starving and somebody says to you, "You're hungry. Well, here's a rat. You can eat that. Or here's a cockroach. Or here's a mouldy sandwich." And you'll go, "Oh, the mouldy sandwich. I'll have that." And then you convince yourself, you go, "Oh, the mould might be penicillin, might be good. Go and buy a steak. Go and buy a steak." But we never do that. You know what I mean? And somebody else said recently, but if we'd have taken Nuno a year ago when he was high flying with Forest and we'd actually gone out and paid for him, we'd all be happy. Well, hang on, there's 2 things there. We have now seen the wheels come off his style 2/3 of the season into Forest, the same way as it did at Wolves and the same way as it did at Spurs. And I'll put it to you, if I'd have asked you, Gonzo, last year, here's a bit of paper with numbers 1 to 10 on it. Doesn't have to be out of work managers. Any manager in the world, give us 10 people you'd like. Nuno's not anywhere near that list, mate.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up, actually, because and I don't want anyone to go back and it's in the comments over the last couple of days. Listen, everyone's welcome to their opinion, and somebody asked me yesterday, Gonzo, you said that Nuno, he wasn't your favourite for the job. You need to apologise now. It's in the comments yesterday, and I had a little chuckle. To myself, right? Because people that watch the videos all the time, they would, out of who I thought was achievable. I thought Marco Silva was achievable because I think we could have paid compensation. We should have used the old overdraft, the old credit card, or whatever West Ham have got. That would have been my choice. Nuno was not my choice. My favourite would have been Iraola. I don't think it's realistic by the time we get to this point. I wanted De Zerbi when it was still possible to get him. So I would be lying if I'd have sat here when Nuno was mentioned and said, oh, he's my choice. No, I'll tell you what he was. Out of Gary O'Neill and out of Slaven Bilic, and not that I want to compare anyone to a cockroach or a rat or a mouldy sandwich. He was... Nuno, I thought, was by far the best choice. And I thought actually we were lucky he was available, because had he not been available, we wouldn't have paid compensation for him, right? And I think he's really competent. Really competent. But I'm not going to apologise for having a favourite that's not Nuno any more than I might have a favourite album. And just because I hear a new piece of music, I'm not going to apologise that the old album is my favourite. I think you're allowed to have favourites, and so no, I won't be apologising about that at all. I like him. I like the cut of his jib. I think he's good. I think he's the right manager at the right time. But once again, I think it's the same story with Moyes. Moyes was released. Moyes was sacked. I cannot give the West Ham board any credit for appointing Moyes and winning that European competition. And I'm like anyone else. I listen to the radio and I listen to... A lot of the time they get West Ham fans on and they ask them to speak, and then they cut them off, and then they start talking about the European trophy. And I think I'll happily argue this one, actually. That was a complete accident. They'd already shown they didn't rate Moyes. They got rid of him. They had a panic. And in the end, they stumbled across the right manager. Let's not pretend there's been any foresight in appointing Nuno Espírito Santo. It has been an accident, fortuitous at best. They thought Lopetegui was the man. He wasn't. They thought Graham Potter was the man. He wasn't. We now get to a point we're desperately looking around and thinking about a manager. Do you know what? We are right lucky. We're right lucky that he had a fallout with Marinakis or Edu or whatever happened there. Whatever happened, we were lucky. Fortune favoured us there. There was a manager there, not an old one, not a Tony Pulis and not a Sam Allardyce, a person who has recently done it and last season got his team into Europe in the Premier League, who has probably got a strong enough personality to deal with this board, to see it off, and who actually, there was enough people left in the squad that were used to playing counter-attacking football that he could come in and say, do you know what? Okay, I can take over this lot and I can probably do a half-decent job. And I think he can, and I do think he's competent. But yeah, I can't sit here and praise the forward planning or the forward thinking of the board. I think it's just this has fallen onto their laps, and that's what needs to happen, because actually anytime they do try and plan, anytime they do try and put any due process, they fail. Anytime that there is any project or any whiff of a project, there's absolute failure. So I just want to say that, but it doesn't mean I want Nuno to fail. I like him. I like you. I listened to the press conference. I like him. He's a leader. He's strong, and for all the things you said, organised, exactly what we need. I don't care. I've told anybody on this channel, if I start moaning about style of football this morning, go in the comments and smack me bum. All right, honestly, because I just want to get results. I really, really do.
Totally agree. It's just short-termism, and it mustn't be overlooked. It's like, it's like finding a donut in the reduced section of all the crap that's left in Tesco's 5 minutes before closing. It's fortunate for us, and he'll do a good job, and we'll back him, and he'll do a great job. But you can't say there's any foresight gone into this, or that they'd have gone and picked him out the job if he was still in employment. He is. My point is, he is the best of a bad lot. But let's not forget they give us this small framework of thinking that this is all we get to choose from. That's my problem.
It. No, that's it. It's the magician's choice, as we used to say. But I think you might be needing a bit of luck. What time? What is it? It's 3:45. What time is it in Tenerife?
Same clock. Same.
Oh, of course, yeah. You're down, aren't you? You're not across. Yeah.
No.
Did you have lunch
today so far?
Yeah,
not really. The wife's made a sausage pie, so I've warmed up a bit of sausage pie.
Have you not eaten it yet?
No, I've just had a slice of it
A
because it
slice of
smelled
it.
nice.
I
But,
think you're hungry. You brought up food on a number of occasions. I don't blame you, by the way. By the way, I've got to tell you, talk about donut. Completely off the subject, right? Well, on the subject of donuts, not West Ham. So on Sunday, we thought we'd get away for the day, and we went down the South Coast. My folks live in Dorset, so we took the chain ferry over to Swanage, bakery in Swanage. I had the nicest apple donut. In fact, I don't know how many apple donuts I've had. The nicest apple donut. I'm telling you, this thing had like big chunks of apple in it. Absolutely gorgeous, mate. What a donut that was.
well, that seems far too simplified for this day and age. What they
Biscoff.
call
They should have Biscoffed it up.
well, no, not with a cronut, was it? You had once
Yeah. There was the muffin and the croissant. That was
cruffin,
a cruffin. That's it. I called it a muffin.
cruffin.
A
So
muffin.
surely
She
this
wasn't
is
impressed in the shop. Yeah.
so surely this is not an apple donut. This is surely a dapple or something.
The dapple. You're right. No, it was just a donut. And do you know what it had? Just plain old icing on it as well. So you know,
Wow.
like you get the ice fingers, the ice, had just icing on it, an apple. Thought I'm gonna have. Oh, I'll tell you what. I had that, and I got halfway up the M3, whatever, hour and a half away from Swanage. I'm thinking, oh, should have got a couple of them. I didn't turn round. Where you going? On the 180 on the M3. Yeah.
With the kids in the back going, we'd have quite liked one as well, Dad.
They did have one. Don't know what you're
maybe
suggesting.
maybe we could sniff the bag when you finish.
Quite right too. They made the wrong choice. The kids made the wrong choice. That's not my. Oh, Jakey had a Belgian bun, right? Which is
Solid
fine.
choice.
But you can get a Belgian bun anywhere. And Jesse had a fondant, basically like a French fancy. That it was the biggest French fancy you've ever seen. But this donut was oval. It was like that. And so anyway, they got their French fancy and their Belgian bun. And I'm driving, and we pull up near this little bit overlooking the sea. You can feel you could be looked at. Do you know what I mean? And then I just see the jealousy.
You were being looked at by other car users because your kids were crying with no cakes.
That's right. They were starving. I said you can have a mouldy sandwich and a cockroach, for goodness sake. I'm having this Nuno Espírito. It wasn't. This was like a Pep Guardiola I was eating.
It was a Nuno.
It was a Nuno. It was. Yeah, absolutely. He had a Belgian O'Neill or whatever he had. Yeah, they were suffering.
Oh dear.
Mate, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Enjoy the game. Enjoy the day. Everybody enjoy your day. We'll see you hour and 5 minutes before kickoff, 3 p.m. kickoff today. So join me and Gio a little bit later on. Enjoy your morning. Make a useful morning. Have a productive morning. There you go. That's a good one. I wish everybody a productive morning. We'll catch you later. And I will be back with Michael Levy Jr. next week. And we'll get his... In fact, you're uploading a video next week, aren't you? In a week's time, you'll be doing a little...
I am indeed. Yeah.
Solo.
I am. Yeah, your subscribers always very kind to me, and I always like a little chat and exchange of views in the comments. So yeah, I'll be uploading a little video or two here and there, and we have a little chat as always, and we enjoy talking all things West Ham.
Love it, mate. Love it. Well, they all enjoy interacting with you, as do I. Right, we're going to say goodbye. Enjoy the game. I'll catch you later.